Well, I've just come in from walking the dogs, and it's made me sit and think. I was listening to BBC Question Time last night, and there's an attack going on at the moment, which is a little bit bizarre. We seem to be going out of our way to attack the poor people of this country. You know, attacking their benefits, attacking their housing benefits, their ability to get a job, their ability to get into education, and the people who are at the very top of the pay scale. Their salary went up by 49% last year on average, and they've avoided tax by billions and billions of pounds, and we, the ordinary people of this country, just seem to be paying for it. And I don't understand why there seems to be this moral outrage that there's, you know, a couple of families here and there who apparently are scrounging, but there don't seem to be the same moral outrage at all these people like Philip Green who are avoiding tax, like Vodafone who avoided £6 billion worth of tax. And to be fair, we could really do with that cash in the exchequer at the moment. And these bankers, you know, getting all that money, it just seems to be a bit strange. So we need to sort of change the way we sort of act a little bit. I think when you look at this next bit with Mark Steele, I think you'll see what I'm trying to say. I mean, he put it very, very cleverly and very carefully. But it's the people in ordinary communities, our community, the people out there, and us. We're the ones who are suffering. You know, I mean, I work. You know, my partner works. You know, we don't do too badly. But I really worry for those people who are struggling, really, really struggling at the moment. So watch Mark Steele. See what you think. See what you think.
So in all of this talk about the need for austerity and so on, there is one layer of people who have become much wealthier over the last year. The top 1%, or rather the directors of the top 100 companies in the FTSE index in this country have seen their salaries increase by 49%. It is extraordinary that we have all of this stuff from people who go, what about the working poor? We have to attack benefits because of the working poor. And yet they don't bother about this enormous wealth redistribution that goes towards the very, very rich. And that's why I think one of the saddest things, in a way, when I hear David here, he sounds brilliant. I think I'd vote for you, mate. You're full of fire and everything. And then when it comes to being in the Labour Party, the party as a whole manages to be an organisation that completely refutes its whole rationale, because the word that it is, the institution, is an opposition. And yet it ceased to be an opposition. Instead, it decides to agree with pretty much everything that the government's done, which is why Jeremy there is to be able to poke fun in that way. And I think that's a terrible, terrible shame. I think if David and the Labour Party were able to stand up for the great mass of people against this tiny, tiny bunch of very rich people, I think that the country might be going in a different direction.
All right. Mark Steele, are you with the bishops? Do they occupy the moral high ground?
Well, I think compared to David Cameron they do. See, I think it can look as if David Cameron's in touch with the common people. But if you step back for a moment and see what they're doing here, it's not just a one-off issue, it's not just a one-off cut. This is part of this government's overall strategy, which is to make the poor pay for a mess that the rich have created. That's their overall strategy. And of course, the people, there's only 67,000 households out of the 60 million people in this country who receive this level of benefit. Most of the money goes on rent. That's why over half of the people who receive that much are in London, where the rents are highest. And then, if you just consider for a moment, you know, when it's posed as being fair and posed as being in defence, as Melanie says, of hard-working people, you've got to think to yourself, hang on a minute, if you... In some ways, maybe what the government's complaining about is that these people aren't claiming enough. If these claimants weren't claiming £26,000, but were claiming £1 million and then £1 million bonus on top of that as well, instead of a cap being put on it, there would just be a mild call for them to show some restraint. If they were having millions of pounds that they were taking out of society, and then they were putting that money in their wife's name and shoving it over to the Cayman Islands so that they didn't pay any tax, then instead of a cap being put on it, instead of a cap being put on it, then the Inland Revenue would be meeting them, as the Inland Revenue did meet with many big businessmen just before Christmas, and wrote off in one day £25 billion of tax that was avoided. £25 billion is so much more, and therefore what's pernicious, I think, about this argument is it's trying to divide all the different people who are being hammered. Because, yes, the working poor are being hammered. And so how pernicious it is to say, do you know who's taking it? The people who are even poorer than you. Which is what they do all the time. Okay. We're going to put up the fees. All right. We'll make you pay tuition fees so that because we're going to protect the working poor. And the danger here is that all the different people that they're hammering are all squabbling amongst themselves about who it is who's taking it, while the rich run off and get away with it. Right. And that's why I think that when you step back from this argument, it looks as if David Cameron is in touch with people, but I really don't think he is.